The morning the world ended started with sunshine and the smell of bacon. I was in the kitchen, like always. The radio was playing soft, old songs. The coffee pot gurgled its last bit of water. I cracked eggs into a bowl. The sound of clean tap 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 against the ceramic. 2 eggs for me. 3 for her. Diana always ate more in the morning, a little fact I'd carried with me for 22 years. Outside the big kitchen window, our lawn was a perfect green carpet. The sprinklers had just shut off, leaving diamonds on the grass. I'd mowed it yesterday. The lines were straight. I like them straight. Everything in its place. A place for everything. I heard her footsteps on the stairs. Light, quick. She always moved like she was late for something wonderful. She came into the kitchen, a blur of silk robe and morning energy. "Smells good," she said, her voice still a little rough from sleep. She went straight to the coffee pot, poured a mug, and leaned against the counter, watching me. She was beautiful. She had always been beautiful. Even at 17, when her jeans were faded and her car was a rusted-out junker, she had a light in her that made you look twice. Now, at 43, the light was polished, refined. Her dark hair, streaked with expensive silver, was swept up in a loose knot. Her eyes, the color of strong coffee, took in the kitchen, the eggs, me. "Big day," I said, sliding her eggs onto a warm plate. I added 2 slices of the bacon, crisp the way she liked it. "Final gala planning." "The final," she sighed, but it was a happy sigh. A busy, important sigh. There are a million last-minute details. The seating chart is a nightmare. Mrs. Harrington insists on being at the head table, but she gave peanuts, Julian. Peanuts. And the florist is trying to swap out the lilies for hydrangeas, which just screams community theater, not visionary gala. She took a bite of egg. "You're a saint for this. I'd be eating cold cereal." "It's no trouble," I said, and it wasn't. Cooking for her was one of my quiet pleasures. It was a simple thing I could do. I wasn't good at big speeches or fancy parties, but I could make a breakfast that made her happy. She ate quickly, scanning her phone with her free hand. Her brow was furrowed in that focused way I knew so well. "Malcolm needs me to sign off on the program notes by 10, she muttered, more to herself than to me. Malcolm Thorne. The name landed in the sunny kitchen like a small, cold stone. He was always there now, in her conversations, in her schedule. Malcolm thinks this. Malcolm says that. Malcolm, with his gallery downtown, his sharp suits, his connections. He was the one who had pushed for her to get this award. Her champion. "He's working you hard," I said, keeping my voice even. I turned back to the stove to cook my own eggs. "He's a perfectionist," she said, and I could hear the admiration in her voice. "It's why the gallery is so successful. He doesn't settle. It's inspiring, you know, to be around someone who demands the best." I didn't answer. The bacon grease sizzled. I thought about demanding the best. I had spent 22 years trying to give her my best. My best efforts to build a business so she wouldn't worry. My best efforts to be steady, to be there. Was that not demanding enough? She finished her coffee and stood up, kissing the top of my head. "Gotta run. Thank you, my love. You're my rock." She swept out of the kitchen, leaving a scent of her jasmine perfume and the ghost of her energy. My rock. She called me that for years. It used to feel like a compliment. Strong, solid, unmoving. Lately, it felt like something else. A rock is just there. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't inspire. It just is. I cleaned up the kitchen, washed the pan, wiped the counters. The silence after she left was deep and familiar. I was used to my own company. The business I ran, Thorne Construction, was mostly me. A few crews I hired for big jobs, but the planning, the bids, the work, that was mine. I liked the solitude of it, the clarity. Wood and concrete and steel didn't lie. A beam either held the weight or it didn't. I went to my home office, a small room lined with blueprints and smelling of sawdust and paper. I had a bridge project to price out for the county. It was a simple overpass, but the math had to be perfect. I lost myself in the numbers, in the clean logic of stress and load. It was noon before I looked up. My stomach growled. I want to make a sandwich. As I passed the front hall table, I saw it. A small, cream-colored envelope. It must have fallen out her bag in a rush. It was addressed to her. The handwriting was elegant, masculine. I knew that handwriting. It was from Malcolm. My hand reached for it before my brain could tell me to stop. This was wrong. This was her private mail. But the cold stone in my gut from this morning had grown. It was an anchor now, pulling me down. I picked it up. The paper was thick, expensive. I slid a finger under the flap. It wasn't glued well. It came open easily. It wasn't a love letter. It was just a note. Asterisk D, confirming the plan. The usual place, 3 p.m. I'll have the documents. Can't wait to see you. The days are too long in between. M asterisk. That was all. Simple. Innocent, even. Asterisk the usual place. The days are too long in between. Asterisk. My blood went cold, then hot. The kitchen, so bright and clean a moment ago, seemed to tilt. I put a hand on the table to steady myself. The usual place. Where was the usual place? Not the gallery. He wouldn't write a note about that. Can't wait to see you. Did gallery owners write that to the artist they represented? The note felt hot in my hand. I put it back in the envelope, my fingers clumsy. I placed it back on the table exactly as I found it. I walked back to my office and closed the door. I sat in my chair, but I didn't see the blueprints. I saw Diana's face this morning. The excited stress about the gala. The way she said Malcolm's name. I saw last Thursday, when she came home at 9, her cheeks flushed, saying a donor meeting had run late. She'd smelled of rain and an unfamiliar, spicy cologne. I saw the new necklace she wore sometimes, a thin gold chain she said was costume jewelry from a street vendor. It looked real to me. Little things. 100 little things over months, maybe a year. Pieces of a puzzle I hadn't wanted to put together. But the note was a corner piece. It made the picture start to form, and it was an ugly picture. I spent the afternoon in a daze. The numbers on the bridge bid blurred together. I made mistakes, had to start over. My hands, usually so steady, shook a little. At 5 o'clock, her car pulled into the driveway. I heard the front door open, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She called out, "Honey, I'm home," like she always did. The normalcy of it was a knife. I came out of my office. She was in the kitchen, pouring a glass of wine. She looked tired but happy, the kind of happy that comes from a day of doing important things. "Long day?" I asked, leaning in the doorway. "The longest," she said, taking a sip. "But good. The programs are done. The menu is finalized. It's really happening." She smiled at me, and it reached her eyes. For a second, she was just my Diana again, the girl from home who wanted to paint the world. "You'll be there, right? You have your tux from the Wilson wedding." "It still fits," I said. "Good." She came over and put a hand on my chest. "I want you to see it. To see me, get this. After all this time, I wouldn't miss it," I said, and my voice sounded strange to my own ears. She searched my face for a second, her smile fading a bit. "You okay, Julian? You seem quiet." "Just tired," I lied. "Bridge bid is giving me grief." She patted my chest. "My rock. Always working so hard." She kissed my cheek and went upstairs to change. I stood in the quiet kitchen. My rock. The word felt heavier every time she said it. That night, in bed, she fell asleep quickly, her breathing soft and even. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The note burned in my mind. The usual place. I am a simple man. I believe in facts, and what I can see and touch. I needed facts. The next morning, after she left for another marathon planning session, I did something I had never done before. I went into her study. It was a beautiful room, all soft light and books, and her big, messy desk. Canvases leaned against the walls, half-finished, brilliant with color. This was her world. It had always felt separate from mine, but in a good way. Today, it felt like foreign territory. I didn't know what I was looking for. More notes? Receipts? I felt sick like a thief, but the need to know was a physical ache. I didn't find anything in her desk. Just gallery invoices, sketches, donor lists. I was about to leave, feeling foolish and guilty, when I saw her laptop. It was closed, sitting to the side. I shouldn't have. I know I shouldn't have. But I opened it. It woke up, asking for a password. I stared at the blank box. What would her password be? I tried her birthday. No. Our wedding date. No. The name of our old dog, Buster. No. I thought about the note. The days are too long in between. A sudden, desperate idea hit me. I typed in Malcolm. The screen unlocked. Just like that. My wife's password was another man's name. The world narrowed to the glow of the screen. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The point of no return. I didn't go to her email. I went to her photos. I don't know why. Maybe because pictures don't lie. And there they were. Not dozens. Just a few. But they were enough. One was of a sunset from a balcony. A balcony I didn't recognize. The sky was on fire with orange and purple. In the corner of the shot, you could see a man's hand resting on a railing. A man's hand with a heavy silver watch. Malcolm wore a heavy silver watch. Another was a selfie of her in a car, laughing. She was in the passenger seat. The window showed a blurred background of trees and a winding road. She wasn't driving. Who was driving? The last one was the worst. It was a picture of a dinner table. 2 wine glasses. 2 plates with half-eaten food. Candlelight. And in the background, reflected faintly in a dark window, you could see the shapes of 2 people sitting close. One had Diana's familiar silhouette. The other was taller, broader. The photos were dated. The most recent was 2 weeks ago. A Tuesday. The Tuesday she had told me she was at an all-day strategic planning retreat for the Arts Council. A retreat that, I now knew with cold certainty, did not exist. I closed the laptop. My hands were ice. My whole body was ice. I put the laptop back exactly as it was. I left her study and walked back to my office. I sat down. The facts were in. The evidence was clear. My wife of 22 years was having an affair with Malcolm Thorne. The pain came then. Not all at once, but in a slow, rising tide. It started in my chest, a deep, hollow ache. Then it spread, a hot, sick feeling that made my throat tight and my eyes burn. I put my head in my hands. I didn't cry. I just sat there, breathing through the wave of it. What had I done wrong? Had I not loved her enough? Had I been too quiet? Too boring? Had I just been a rock when she wanted a volcano? I thought of all the years. The small apartment we started in. Me working double shifts so she could take painting classes. Her first sold painting, a messy abstract I didn't understand but framed with so much pride. The slow climb. Her getting a job at a gallery. Meeting Malcolm. Her career taking off. My business growing. This house. The nice cars. The trips. The life. Had she been unhappy the whole time? Was it all performance? The questions had no answers. Only the facts remained. The note. The password. The pictures. I knew what most men would do. They would confront her. They would yell, cry, demand to know why. They would give her a chance to explain, to lie, to beg for forgiveness. But I wasn't most men. I was Julian, the Rock. I didn't know how to yell. I didn't know how to have that kind of stormy, dramatic fight. It wasn't in me. And the thought of listening to her explanations, watching her craft a new story to cover the old one, it made me feel tired. So tired. I also thought about the gala. In 1 week, she would stand in front of hundreds of people. She would be given an award for her vision, her integrity, her passion. Malcolm would likely be the one to hand it to her. They would smile for the cameras. She would probably thank me, her faithful, dull rock, in her speech. And the whole room would applaud the beautiful lie of our life. A cold, hard anger began to cut through the pain. It wasn't a fiery anger. It was a silent, solid, granite anger. She didn't just break my heart. She made a fool of me. And she was going to celebrate it in front of the whole city. No. That word formed in my mind, clear and absolute. No. She would not have her perfect night. She would not get to stand there, wrapped in admiration, while our marriage lay in ruins at her feet. If our life was going to be a spectacle, then the truth would be the main event. The plan began to form in my mind. It was not a complicated plan. It was simple like me. I would wait. I would gather proof, real proof, not just gut feelings and stolen glances at a laptop. And on the night of the gala, when she was at her highest point, I would bring the truth crashing down. It was cruel. I knew that. But her betrayal was cruel. Her double life was cruel. Maybe 2 cruelties made a kind of justice. I got up from my desk. The pain was still there, but it was locked away now, behind a wall of purpose. I had a job to do. The first step was proof. I needed someone who could get me undeniable facts. I couldn't follow her myself. She'd notice. And I didn't have the skills. I remember a guy, an old client from years ago, a lawyer named Frank Burroughs. He'd hired me to build an addition on his lake house. Over beers after work, he talked about his other clients. Divorce cases. He'd mentioned a private investigator he used, a guy who was discreet and thorough. Like a bloodhound who wears a suit, Frank had said. I called Frank. I didn't give details, just said I had a sensitive situation and needed a name. He heard the strain in my voice and didn't ask questions. He gave me a name and a number. His name's Carver. He's not cheap, but he's the best. Tell him I sent you. I called the number. A calm, neutral voice answered. Carver. My name is Julian Thorne. Frank Burrows gave me your number. I think my wife is having an affair. I need to know for sure. There was a pause on the other end. Knowing is the hard part, Mr. Thorne. I need to know, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. We met the next day at a truck stop diner 20 miles out of town. It was a place no one we knew would ever go. Carver was a small, neat man in his 50s with kind eyes and a quiet way of sitting that made him almost invisible. He ordered coffee, black, and listened as I told him everything. The distance I'd felt, the note, the password, the photos on her laptop. I showed him a picture of Diana, one from our vacation last year. She was laughing, her hair windblown. She looked so happy. Was that real? Had any of it been real? Carver looked at the photo, then back at me. His expression was unreadable. It's usually true, you know, he said softly. When a husband has a feeling this strong, it's usually true. I need more than a feeling, I said. I need proof I can hold in my hand. I can get you proof, he said, but it will be facts, times, dates, locations, photographs. It won't be pleasant. I don't need pleasant, I said. I need true. We agreed on his fee. It was a lot of money. I didn't care. I wrote him a check from my personal account, one she had no access to. He took down all the details, her name, her car make and model, her daily routines, Malcolm's name. The gala is in 6 days, I said. I need what you have before then. I'll be in touch, Carver said. He finished his coffee, shook my hand with a firm, dry grip, and left. He left cash for his coffee on the table. I drove home, the empty passenger seat feeling like an accusation. The next 6 days were the longest of my life. I became an actor in my own home. I smiled. I asked about her day. I listened to her talk about flower arrangements and seating charts. I nodded and made sympathetic noises. I was the perfect, supportive, clueless husband. The rock. But inside, I was crumbling. Every time she touched me, I flinched. Every time she laughed, I wondered who she was thinking of. I slept little. I ate less. I moved through the house like a ghost, watching the woman who was once my life prepare for her grand celebration. A celebration that felt more and more like a funeral for us. Carver called 3 days later. He asked to meet at the same diner. He didn't have photos this time. He had a typed report. Just the facts like he promised. He slid it across the table to me. I didn't want to touch it. It's confirmed, he said, his voice still that same, calm neutral. They meet regularly. Tuesdays and Thursdays, most weeks. Sometimes for lunch, often in the afternoon. They use a boutique hotel downtown, the Willows. He checks in under his company name. She arrives separately, goes straight to the room. Stays 2-3 hours. They are not discreet in their affections. They also meet at his apartment. She parks in the underground garage, uses a key fob to enter his private elevator. The words were like little hammers, each one driving a nail into the coffin of my marriage. Asterisk hotel. Private elevator. Affections. Asterisk. Do you have pictures? I asked, my voice a dry whisper. I do, Carver said. But I don't think you want to see them, Mr. Thorne. They won't tell you anything the report doesn't. They'll just hurt more. He was right. I didn't want to see them. The words were bad enough. There's more, Carver said, and he almost sounded sorry. It's been going on for at least 18 months. Probably longer. And it's not casual. They exchange gifts. He's bought her jewelry. She's furnishing his apartment with art, pieces from her own collection. They talk about the future. The future. That word was a final hammer blow. They had a future. A future that didn't include me. Thank you, Carver, I said, folding the report without reading it. I put it in my jacket pocket. It felt like it weighed 100 pounds. What will you do? He asked. I have a plan, I said. And I told him. I told him about the gala. About my plan to serve her the divorce papers there, in front of everyone. For the first time, Carver's neutral expression cracked. A flicker of surprise, then something that might have been respect. Or pity. That's a nuclear option, Mr. Thorne. There will be fallout. A lot of it. There's already fallout, I said. It just hasn't hit the ground yet. I paid him the rest of his fee. He handed me a sealed envelope. The photographs, he said, and a digital copy on a drive. Use them if you need to. I took the envelope. I didn't open it. I drove home, the report and the envelope burning a hole in my pocket. When I got there, Diana's car was in the driveway. She was home early. She was in the living room, on the phone. Her back was to me. I know. It's terrible, she was saying, her voice low and intimate. I just feel so trapped sometimes. Like I'm living someone else's life. No, of course not. He doesn't suspect a thing. He's so oblivious, it's almost sweet. Yes, tomorrow. The usual time. I can't wait. She hung up and turned around. She saw me and jumped, her hand flying her chest. Julian, you scared me. I didn't hear you come in. Sorry, I said, my voice flat. Who was that? Oh, just Sarah, she said too quickly. Sarah was her oldest friend. She's having husband trouble again. Poor thing. I just looked at her. Asterisk oblivious. Sweet. Asterisk, the words echoed in my head. She looked so innocent, standing there in her yoga pants and tank top, the picture of a woman at home. She was a better actor than I'd ever known. You're home early, I said. Final dress fitting, she said, waving a hand. It's perfect. You're going to love it. She came over and kissed my cheek. What's wrong? You look pale. Just a headache, I said. Go lie down, she said, her voice full of false concern. I'll bring you some aspirin. I went upstairs and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I heard her humming in the kitchen below. She was humming a tune I didn't recognize. Was it a song they listened to together? The thought made me sick. The next day, I went to see my lawyer. Linda Grant had a reputation for being tough, especially in divorce cases. Her office was cold and modern, all glass and steel. She listened as I told her everything, her face impassive. I showed her Carver's report. I gave her the envelope of photos. She read the report, then opened the envelope and glanced at the top photograph. Her lips tightened. She put it back. This is more than enough, she said. With the prenuptial agreement and evidence of adultery, this will be very straightforward. We can file next week. I don't want to file next week, I said. I want to file the day of the gala. And I want the final papers, ready to be served, that night. Linda leaned back in her chair. She looked at me with new interest. That's theatrical. It's appropriate, I said. She considered it. Then a slow, sharp smile touched her lips. It is. And it's smart. Public perception matters in these things. She's the darling of the art scene. This flips the script. Makes her the villain. It will give you immense leverage. Not that you'll need much with this prenup. She tapped the report. Okay, Mr. Thorne. We'll make it happen. The judge will sign the final decree of dissolution that afternoon. I'll have the papers for you by 5 p.m. What will you do with them? I'll serve them myself, I said. At the gala. Linda's smile widened. I'll make sure they're in a very nice envelope. The next few days were a blur of quiet preparation and silent acting. I had my tuxedo cleaned. I polished my shoes. I was getting ready for a performance, too. Diana was a whirlwind of last-minute chaos. Flowers were wrong. The band was late with their song list. A major donor was threatening to pull out. She was stressed, snapping at me over little things, then apologizing with a quick, distracted kiss. She was living in her own world, a world of canapes and centerpieces and secret meetings with Malcolm. She barely saw me. The night before the gala, she was up late, practicing her acceptance speech in the mirror. I stood in the hallway listening. And so, I accept this award not just for myself, but for every artist who dares to dream, she said, her voice trembling with fake emotion. For every woman who has been told to be quiet, to be small. This is for you. And of course, for my husband, Julian, my rock, who has always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. I walked away, my stomach churning. The hypocrisy was so thick I could taste it. The day of the gala dawned bright and clear. Diana was up at dawn, a bundle of nervous energy. Hairdressers and makeup artists arrived at 10. The house was filled with the smell of hairspray and perfume and the sound of female laughter. I stayed in my office, out of the way. At 4 o'clock, my phone buzzed. It was Linda, my lawyer. It's done, she said. The judge signed. The papers are ready. Where do you want me to send them? I'll come to you, I said. I drove to Linda's office. She handed me a large, thick, cream-colored envelope. It was very official looking. My name was typed on the front. The originals, she said. Everything is in order. From a legal standpoint, as of 4:15 p.m. today, your marriage is over. This just makes it official. I took the envelope. It was heavy. The weight of 22 years, ending in a stack of paper. Good luck tonight, Julian, Linda said. There was no pity in her eyes, just a cool, professional assessment. Remember, you hold all the cards. I drove home. Diana was already gone, off for pre-gala photos of the venue. The house was quiet, empty. It felt like a museum of a life that was no longer real. I showered and put on my tuxedo. I looked at myself in the mirror. The man looking back was a stranger. His eyes were calm, but there was a hardness in them I'd never seen before. The rock had grown edges. I put the thick envelope into the inside pocket of my tuxedo jacket. It fit perfectly, like it was meant to be there. I drove downtown to the St. Regis Hotel. Valets swarmed. Women in glittering gowns and men in black ties streamed through the golden doors. I could hear the buzz of the crowd, the clink of glasses, the sound of a string quartet playing. I took a deep breath. This was it. I walked inside. The ballroom was a vision. It was all candlelight and crystal and white linen. Hundreds of people, the who's who of the city, mingled and laughed. It was Diana's world, in all its shining, false glory. I saw her immediately. She was across the room, a vision in ice blue silk. The dress was stunning, clinging to her in all the right places. Her hair was up, with a few artful curls escaping. She wore the gold necklace, the one she said was costume jewelry. It glittered under the lights. She was holding a champagne flute, talking to a group of older men in tuxedos. She was laughing, her head thrown back, the picture of success and joy. And beside her, his hand on the small of her back, was Malcolm Thorne. He was handsome. I had to give him that. Silver-haired, tan, his tuxedo looking like it was born on him. He leaned in and said something to her, and she smiled up at him, a private, warm smile that never once reached her eyes when she looked at me. I felt the envelope against my chest. The weight of it was comforting. I didn't go to her. I found my seat at our assigned table. It was near the front. There were 7 other people there, couples I knew vaguely. They greeted me, asked where Diana was. Working the room, I said with a smile. They laughed, understanding. Dinner was served. I ate without tasting anything. Speeches began. Boring speeches from Arts Council members. I watched Diana. She was glowing, radiant. Every so often, she'd glance at our table, see me, and give a little wave. Her rock was in his place. All was right in her world. Finally, the main event. The news anchor, a man with 2 white teeth, took the podium. He talked about vision, about passion, about the transformative power of art. Then he introduced Malcolm. To present this year's award, the anchor boomed. A man whose own vision has shaped our city's cultural landscape. Please welcome Malcolm Thorne. Polite, enthusiastic applause. Malcolm kissed Diana's cheek and walked to the podium. He was a natural, charming, funny, sincere. He talked about Diana's fearless creativity, her unstoppable spirit. He called her his dear friend and his partner and inspiration. Each word was a twist of the knife. And so, Malcolm concluded, his voice swelling. It is my absolute honor to present the Metropolitan Arts Council's Visionary of the Year award to a woman who has changed my life and who changes our city for the better every single day. Diana Thorne. The room exploded. A standing ovation. Camera flashes popped like fireworks. Diana stood, her hand over her heart, tears shining in her eyes. She walked to Malcolm, and he handed her the heavy crystal award. They embraced. A long, full hug. The crowd ate it up. She took the podium, clutching the award. She waited for the applause to die down, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Thank you, she said, her voice trembling. Thank you all so much. This is beyond my wildest dreams. She launched in her speech. She thanked the council, the donors, her team at the gallery. She talked about the power of art to heal, to connect, to reveal truth. I almost laughed out loud at that. Truth. Then she paused, looked down, her voice softening. And of course, my rock. She looked up, her eyes searching the tables. The spotlight operator, cued, swung the light toward our table. It landed on my empty chair. A slight ripple of confusion went through the crowd. Diana's smile didn't falter. She was a pro. Wherever you are, my love, this is for you too. Thank you for being my foundation. That was my cue. I stood up from a shadowed table at the side of the room where I'd moved. I began to walk, slowly and deliberately, down the center aisle. People at the tables along the aisle turned, annoyed at first, then curious. Diana, from the podium, saw the movement. Her eyes found me. Confusion. Then irritation. Asterisk, what's he doing? Ruining my moment. Asterisk. I reached the base of the stage. I didn't run up. I walked up the 3 steps, my shoes loud on the wood. Malcolm, standing off to the side, took a step forward, his face a mask of concern. I ignored him. I walked right up to the podium, to my wife. The spotlight, confused, found us both, trapping us in a circle of blinding light. Up close, I could see the fine cracks in her makeup, the tightness around her mouth. "Julian," she said into the microphone, her voice sweet but with an edge. "Darling, is everything all right?" I didn't answer her. I turned to face the crowd. The room had gone completely silent. 1,000 faces, frozen, watching. "My wife," I said, my voice calm and clear in the dead quiet. "Just call me her rock. Her foundation." I paused, letting the words hang. "She's right. For 22 years, that's what I've been. The steady one. The reliable one. I built the life she stands on tonight." I could feel Diana's tension beside me. I could hear her sharp intake of breath. "But a funny thing about foundations," I continued, looking out at the sea of faces. "You don't really see them. You just assume they're there, holding everything up. You walk on them. You build your beautiful things on top of them. And you never think about what might be happening to the foundation itself. If it's cracking, if it's rotting, if someone is chipping away at it." The silence was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. "My foundation," I said, my voice dropping, "has been chipped away at, for a long time, by the man who just gave my wife this award." A collective gasp. A rumble of shock. Malcolm's face went pale. "Julian, stop this," Diana hissed, grabbing my arm. Her fingers were like claws. I gently pulled my arm away. I reached into the inside pocket of my tuxedo jacket. I pulled out the thick, cream-colored envelope. "This," I announced, holding it up for everyone to see, "is not an award. It's a divorce. Final. Signed by a judge today." The rumble became a roar. People were standing up, pointing, phones held high. "No," Diana cried, the sound raw and real for the first time all night. "Yes," I said, turning to her. I held the envelope out to her. "It's over, Diana. The lying. The hotel rooms. The secret life with Malcolm. It's all over." "You're insane," she shrieked, her composure gone. "You're making a scene. This is my night." "It was your night," I said, my voice still quiet but cutting through her hysteria. "Now it's the night everyone finds out who you really are." I turned back to the crowd. "They meet at the Willows Hotel. Tuesdays and Thursdays. He buys her jewelry. She helps decorate his apartment. They've been planning a future without me." I looked at Malcolm, who looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. "Isn't that right, Malcolm? How's that future looking now?" I didn't have the photos. I didn't need them. The truth, spoken out loud in this room, was enough. The damage was done. I dropped the envelope onto the podium. It landed with a soft thud next to her crystal award. The 2 objects sat side by side, the symbol of her public triumph and the document of her private betrayal. "You want a night to remember, Diana," I said, looking at her one last time. "Now you have one." I turned and walked off the stage. I didn't look back. I walked down the steps, through the crowd that parted from me like I was a ghost, and out of the ballroom. The last sound I heard was not applause, but a rising wave of scandalized shouts and one long, piercing scream of my name that was swallowed by the noise. I walked out of the hotel into the cool night air. I didn't call a cab. I just walked. I walked for miles, through the quiet streets, until the glitter of downtown was far behind me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, over and over. Diana, Malcolm, unknown numbers. I turned it off. I was free. The rock had finally moved. And in moving, it had started an avalanche that would bury the beautiful, false world my wife had built. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty and clean, like a forest after a fire. Everything was burnt away. All that was left was the truth, blackened and ugly, but real. And for the first time in a very long time, the rock was just a stone, and it was lighter than it had ever been.